Good evening and welcome to Tuesday's edition of the Regional News. The Jamaican government is being urged to seek a waiver to shield itself from the United States' recent visa restrictions policy, targeting officials from countries that engage Cuban healthcare workers. Jamaica has to exercise its diplomatic efforts to allow for granting of waivers, declared Curtis Ward, former ambassador of Jamaica to the United Nations, with special responsibility for Security Council affairs. Ward noted that efforts should be made by CARICOM to approach this policy as a unified group. Last week, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio announced an expansion to the U.S.-Cuban visa restrictions policy to include foreign government officials and their families whose countries are involved in Cuba's Overseas Medical Mission program. Jamaica is one of about 50 countries that benefit from Cuba's medical missions, a partnership that started in the 1970s. In May 2023, it was estimated that more than 300 Cuban medical personnel were working in Jamaica. This follows the arrival of 250 Cuban medical staff in 2021, 140 in 2020, and 20 in 2016. Typically, these medical professionals work in Jamaica for a set period before returning to Cuba. President Donald Trump has said he is moving forward with 25% tariffs on goods imported from Canada and Mexico into the U.S., adding that the time had run out to reach a deal. U.S. stock markets sank in response to the measures, which he has threatened since early this year and said will now go in effect on Tuesday. An additional 10% tariff on Chinese imports is also expected to come into force, leaving all of America's top 3 trade partners facing significantly higher barriers than just a few weeks ago. No room left for Mexico or for Canada, Trump said at the White House on Monday. The tariffs, they're all set. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau responded, Canada will not let this unjustified decision go unanswered. Canadian Foreign Minister Melanie Joly said Canada planned to impose retaliatory tariffs against U.S. imports, while China's Commerce Ministry on Tuesday also vowed to retaliate against the fresh U.S. tariffs, accusing the Trump administration of trying to shift the blame and bully Beijing over fentanyl flow. Sweeping notices of termination of funding have been received by organizations working with HIV and AIDS across Africa, with dire predictions of a huge rise in deaths as a result. After the U.S. announced a permanent end to funding for HIV projects, services across the board have been affected, say doctors and program managers, from projects helping orphans and pregnant women to those reaching transgender individuals and sex workers. The cuts could result in 500,000 deaths over the next 10 years in South Africa, modeling suggests, while thousands of people are already set to lose their jobs in the coming days. The U.S. government has announced it will be cutting more than 90% of the contracts of its key development agencies, USAID, and slashing $60 billion of overseas aid spending. Thank you for watching. I am TIANA Cole.